It seems like the world's going through a collective moment of uncertainty right now with the outbreak of the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19. The markets have been tanking, every kind of public event has been canceled, and people are scared. This is the first time something like this is happening in my adult life, but I spent a lot of time thinking about this over the last few days, and I came to the conclusion that it's not like any of this is new, really. I mean, I know it feels like it is, and I'm not trying to minimize anybody's fears anywhere around the world. It's just that every new reason to worry feels novel and urgent, but at the same time, the world has never been a certain place, ever. It just hasn't. We've tried very hard to make it that way, but any history book has more than enough proof to tell a different story. Nobody can escape uncertainty, including the rich and powerful. I'm currently in France right now, which is a country that beheaded its last king. So don't even ask me why I voluntarily chose to come live here. I guess they also have French kissing, so it evens out. What I'm saying is that things go wrong all the time. In fact, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. I'm sure you've heard that one before. It's Murphy's Law. Must have been a great guy at parties. Uncertainty is a scary thing. Millions of people are unable to work as they normally would right now. Every student that I know has had their internships or classes canceled. If you had travel plans, I bet you they've changed. Mine certainly have. I only arrived here like 3 weeks ago, and it feels a little bit like my life has been put on hold. It's just that everything outside has been shut down. So this black swan has touched us all. The news cycle has entered turbo mode as we all try to keep up with what's going on and figure out like what to do about it. And I think a really good question to ask right now is, how do you avoid falling down the rabbit hole of pessimism and worry? What do you do when it feels like everything's falling apart? It's an applicable question for all kinds of situations and circumstances well outside of what's going on right now. The common sense advice that we all hear is to be as prepared as possible. Positive affirmations, put money into savings, stock up on toilet paper, save a little extra rice. And by all means, go for it. I mean, I don't think any of that is bad advice, but there's only so much that you can prepare for, really. I mean, what if a meteorite hit our planet? You know, that's an example that has actually happened before. What I mean is, how was anyone supposed to predict that this was going to happen? How do you prepare for the unforeseeable? Life is a funny thing. We spend all of our time and energy trying to control everything as much as we can. But the crazy thing is, it's all an illusion. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how connected you are, how prepared you think you might be. Life does whatever life wants. You can do your best, and I believe you should, but then after that, it's kind of out of your hands. You cannot control what you do not know, and there's actually a lot that we don't know about the world and the universe that we live in. I feel like my existentialism is showing again. My bad. The reality that things do not go according to plan is something that most of us would prefer not to talk or even think about. It's not a comforting idea, I get that. Like many of you, I have gone through my own personal self-improvement journey over the last couple of years, and I've learned a lot about myself throughout this whole process. But one thing that has slowly dawned on me is that no matter how hard I try, that hole that I feel within myself can never be filled through productivity or organization or performance. Those are all temporary answers to a bigger question. So if that's not the solution, what is? Like, what do you do? There's more to life than solving problems and achieving goals. What I'd like to propose is a slightly different way of looking at when things go wrong. There's a Latin phrase, errare humanum est. I mean, I have no idea if I'm saying that right, probably not, but it doesn't matter. Translated, it means to err is human. But that root word err, which is a synonym in English for making a mistake, had a different meaning in Latin. It was something more along the lines of to wander or to stray. Something about that is very intriguing to me. What are we doing if not wandering through this existence? Isn't that the story of humanity? Isn't it always about our search to understand the world that we live in and what we're all doing here? What if, instead of running from the uncomfortable, messy stuff, we accepted that that's part of the rules of the game? I consider Buddhism an incredibly applicable philosophy in times like these. A core theme of Buddhism is the impermanence of all things in life and in the universe. Basically, everything comes to an end. There's this idea they call samsara, which is that suffering is born out of our belief that things in our lives will endure, that ultimately we can find a way to always be happy and avoid pain. Essentially believing that that which you are striving for will fulfill the lack that you feel within yourself. If Buddhism isn't really your thing, fine. The Bible says, "For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return." The same root idea is there. We're not going to be here forever. At first, that sounds like a depressing thought, really. Like, what's the point, right? But then you realize that that's still buying into the same game, and that accepting this is a way out of the rat race of consumerism and materialism. It's liberating. There are so many other ways to spend your time and energy than what society pressures us to do. There's two ways that we could look at what's going on right now, or any point in human history for that matter. It's true that in scary times, people sometimes act with poor judgment out of fear. But there's also been all this incredible stuff showing up on the internet. I find the videos of people singing together to pass the time during quarantine periods to be particularly impactful. So anyway, figuring out how to handle things falling apart is something I think about a lot. Being the little warrior that I am, I hold myself to a very high standard, and I'm very hard on myself when things inevitably don't go according to plan. Pema Chodron is an American nun and a huge recent inspiration of mine, and she offers 3 methods for handling chaos. The first is practicing acceptance. It feels very counterintuitive, but it's not about fighting. It's about embracing where we're at in life, the things that we feel, confronting them and exploring them. People just say to get out of your comfort zone, but it's a lot more than that. It's getting to the essence of the things that scare you, and becoming intimate with that, honestly. The second is practicing Tonglen, which is very, very simple. It's basically when you breathe in others' pain, and when you breathe out, you send them relief. You can do this with any kind of suffering, and it's a wonderful meditation exercise. You can actually begin by doing this for yourself and then expanding it out to all beings that can suffer in the ways that you can. The third is to look at anything that happens to you as awakened energy. In her words, fear is a universal experience. Even the smallest insect feels it. It's not a terrible thing that we feel fear when faced with the unknown. It is part of being alive, something we all share. We react against the possibility of loneliness, of death, of not having anything to hold on to. Fear is a natural reaction to moving closer to the truth. If we commit ourselves to staying right where we are, then our experience becomes very vivid. Things become very clear when there is nowhere to escape. There's actually a second part to the Latin phrase that I shared earlier, and it varies slightly depending on the source. I'm not even going to bother trying to say it because I have no idea how to. It more or less translates to, but to persist in error is diabolical. The way I interpret this is that we may be human beings wandering in this funky, confusing world, but it is always your responsibility to continue learning whether or not things go your way. This video is sponsored by Audible, and there's a really lovely audiobook that I'd like to recommend to all of you. It's an audiobook that played a major role, actually, in the inspiration for this piece. It's called When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron, and I currently consider it one of the top 5 audiobooks that I've listened to over the last year. Audible has a massive selection of audiobooks, including other works by Pema Chodron, so you can start listening now with a 30-day Audible trial, which is 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/NathanielDrew or text Nathaniel Drew to 500-500. The link is also in the description. That's probably the easiest way. Thank you, Audible, for your support. Just a final thought that I wanted to share with you guys, since so many things are up in the air right now. I have a couple of videos that I shot last year that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. I felt like I had to post this first because a lot of my content is travel related, and to just continue posting travel related content right now without addressing what's going on felt mildly inappropriate. So with that being said, I'll see you guys soon.